She's standing in front of the mirror, fingers resting on the flat scar where her breasts used to be. Her husband's had an affair. Her body has been through chemotherapy, surgery, conversations about survival she never imagined having in midlife. Now, months after the double mastectomy that saved her life, she looks at her torso and whispers, "Who would ever want this?" A few weeks later, she's sitting in my therapy room, shoulders slightly folded in, eyes bright but tired, and she asks me a question I will never forget. Is it even possible for me to feel sexy ever again in this body? What she was calling disgust, shame, deadness, all the ways she didn't want to be seen, weren't proof that she was broken. They were signals that very specific psychological capacities hadn't had a chance to grow around a body that had changed faster than her identity could keep up. I'm a psychotherapist, executive coach, clinical supervisor, and award-winning researcher. And over the past 2 decades, I've walked alongside more than 1,200 clients. People facing affairs, burnout, trauma, illness, and profound loss. My early training was in biochemistry, specialising in the biochemistry of mood and behaviour. Later, as a therapy researcher and lecturer, I became increasingly frustrated with how our diagnostic systems describe people. We take signals, emotional pain, bodily reactions, behaviours, group them together and give them a label. Depression, body image disturbance, sexual dysfunction. Those labels can sometimes be useful for communication, but they're not the whole truth. So I created something called the Lifelong Capacities Map and the PsycheVita Vitality Scale because I kept seeing the same pattern. What we call symptoms are really signals that specific skills, psychological capacities and competencies haven't had a chance to develop to the level life is now demanding. Today, I want to show you how that played out for one woman after betrayal and a double mastectomy, and what it might mean for your own relationship with your body and your sexuality. Maybe you haven't lived through breast cancer, but perhaps your body has changed through age, illness, surgery, pregnancy, weight gain or weight loss. You look in the mirror and the old ways you used to feel attractive don't work anymore. You might be brilliant at your job, the reliable one for everyone else, even a therapist or a coach, yourself, and still quietly wonder, is it too late for me to feel sexy? Who would want this body? In this episode, I want to do 3 things. 1, tell you a story, how one woman went from numb and ashamed to a grounded, magnetic, attractive presence after betrayal and a double mastectomy. 2, map the signals, show which specific psychological capacities on the Lifelong Capacities Map, 12 capacities, 48 competencies, were being called to grow. 3, offer a pathway, give you concrete steps you can start today and show you where you can work with a full attractive presence process inside the Grow section of PsycheVita.com. And just to be clear, this is educational, not a substitute for medical care or personalised therapy. If you've experienced sexual trauma or are very fresh from treatment, please go at your own pace and get the support you need. I'm going to call her Camila. That's not her real name, and I've blended details so she can't be identified, but the emotional journey I'm describing is very real. When Camila first discovered her husband's affair, it felt like someone had pulled the floor out from under her life. She described sitting on the bathroom floor at 3 in the morning, scrolling through messages she wished she'd never seen, feeling humiliated, furiously, and strangely replaceable. Her words were, "If you could just swap me out like that, what does that say about me?" In the months that followed, they tried to patch things up. Couples therapy, boundaries, difficult conversations. It was messy and fragile, but they were trying. Then, almost out of nowhere, another shock. A routine screening picked up abnormalities. Biopsies. We need to talk. That cold clinical phrase, "You have breast cancer." Very quickly, the conversation shifted from date nights and trust exercises to treatment options, survival odds, and whether a double mastectomy was the safest choice. She told me it was like my betrayal and my mortality got tangled together. My breasts had been sexual, maternal, part of how I recognised myself, and suddenly they were also where the danger lived. Fast forward, surgeries, hospital corridors, the strange disorientation of waking up with drains, scars, and a chest that felt numb and alien. Friends and family kept saying, "You're so brave. You're a survivor. That's what matters." And she was grateful to be alive, but privately, in front of the mirror, a different story was running. "I'm not a real woman anymore. My husband did better with her. Who would ever want to touch this?" She avoided mirrors from the collarbone down. She flinched when he reached for her in bed. She switched the lights off, turned her back, went through the motions. On the outside, she looked like a successful treatment story. On the inside, she felt dead, ashamed, strangely absent from her own body. That's when she came to see me. And her first session distilled into that one question. Is it even possible for me to feel sexy ever again in this body? If you put Camila into a traditional system, you might see labels like depression, trauma-related disorder, sexual dysfunction, body image disturbance, and all of those labels are trying to point at something real, but they're also incredibly blunt. They're just groupings of signals under a name someone once chose. The name and the grouping stuck, but underneath each label is a pattern of thoughts, emotions, bodily reactions, behaviours that are telling us something highly specific about what skills haven't had a chance to grow yet. With Camila, we didn't start by arguing about diagnoses. Instead, I started from a simple principle. Your symptoms are signals. Signals that certain psychological capacities and competencies haven't yet had a chance to develop around your new reality. When I say capacities and competencies, I'm talking about emotional skills. Capacity 1, emotional capacity. For example, 1.2, adaptive emotional processing. 1.3, emotional agility. Identity skills. Capacity 3, identity capacity. For example, 3.1, clear, cohesive, evolving sense of self. 3.4, healthy self-worth. Somatic body skills. Capacity 8, somatic capacity. For example, 8.2, somatic attunement. 8.3, emotional physical vitality. 8.4, recovery and decompression practices. Relational and boundary skills. That's capacity 4, relational capacity. For example, 4.4, secure relational boundaries. Influence and presence skills as capacity 5, influence capacity. For example, 5.1, clear, calm, inspiring communication under pressure. 5.3, emotional contagion management, projecting energy, Behavioural and risk-taking skills. That's capacity 6, behavioural capacity. For example, 6.1, impulse control. 6.3, adaptive risk-taking, meaning-making and symbolic skills. Capacity 12, symbolic existential capacity. For example, 12.2, narrative flexibility and coherence. 12.3, symbolic thinking and archetypal awareness. On the Lifelong Capacities Map, we track these as 12 capacities and 48 competencies, each on a developmental 0 to 5 scale. It's person-centered. There are more possible combinations than humans who will ever live on this planet. Camilla's signals were things like avoiding her own body, shutting down when her partner looked at her, feeling detached or numb during intimacy, a harsh internal voice telling her she was damaged goods. None of these meant she was broken. They meant that certain capacities hadn't caught up with the betrayal, the illness, and the radically changed body she now lived in. If any of this resonates for you, even if your story is different, I want you to hold on to this. Your signals are not a verdict. They are coordinates. Coordinates that can guide us to the skills that need to grow. When Camila said, "I want to feel sexy again," we didn't rush to lingerie, performance, or trying to please a particular gaze. We defined something I call attractive presence. Attractive presence is a felt sense of warmth, vitality, and coherence in our own body, expressed with confident boundaries, aligned with our own values. It's an internal state that naturally shifts posture, voice, eye contact, and the energy you project in a room. It's not forced seduction, pretending you feel fine, or overriding your discomfort to be good in bed. Attractive presence says, my worth is unconditional. My body has changed, and my right to feel alive, wanted, and at home in myself has not disappeared. On the Lifelong Capacities Map, you can think of attractive present as a synthesis of several capacities. Somatic capacity, that's capacity 8, especially 8.2, somatic attunement, 8.3, emotional physical vitality, and 8.4, recovery and decompression practices. Identity capacity, capacity 3, especially 3.4, healthy self-worth, and 3.1, clear, cohesive, evolving sense of self. Relational capacity as capacity 4, and influence capacity, capacity 5, especially 4.4, secure relational boundaries, 5.1, clear, calm, inspiring communication under pressure, and 5.3, emotional contagion management, projecting energy. Symbolic existential capacity as capacity 12, especially 12.2, narrative flexibility and coherence, and 12.3, symbolic thinking and archetypal awareness. So when Camila asked, "Can I feel sexy again?" my internal translation was, can we grow enough of these capacities that her body and her story can become a place she actually wants to live in again? That's very different from, can we fix her sexual dysfunction? I'm going to walk you through the key phases of the process we used. As I do, notice which parts your own signals respond to. We started with the basics. Could she even stay in her body for a few seconds at a time without shutting down? We did things like feet on the ground, feeling the support of the chair, 2 or 3 slow, extended exhales. I'd ask, on a scale from 0 to 10, how safe does your body feel right now? How alive does it feel? For her, at the beginning, safety might be a 3 out of 10. Aliveness, maybe a 1. We didn't try to jump to a 9. We aimed for a 3 becoming a 4, a 1 becoming a 2. We scanned for neutral or pleasant sensations, warmth in her hands, the feeling of socks on skin, a small sense of length in her spine. Then we gently amplified one sensation by 5 to 10%, a slightly deeper breath into that area, a micro movement in the shoulders or neck, softening the jaw. This is somatic capacity 8 and emotional capacity 1 at work, especially 8.2 somatic attunement, 8.3 emotional physical vitality, and 1.2 adaptive emotional processing. Learning to let the body hold a little more life without bolting. A brief practice you can try right now if it feels okay. Just notice your feet, the contact under your thighs, the weight of your chest as it rises and falls. Nothing fancy. Just ask, where in my body feels even 1% less bad than the rest, and allow that place a fraction more breath. That's the kind of micro step we started with. Next, we looked at self-worth. Camilla's internal script was, I'm less of a woman. I'm damaged goods. He upgraded. I've been downgraded. On the map, we'd say identity capacity, capacity 3, was under huge strain, especially 3.4, healthy self-worth, and 3.1, clear, cohesive, evolving sense of self. So we did exercises like recalling 2 or 3 moments where she felt deeply valued in non-sexual contexts, as a friend, a colleague, a mother, a human being. We asked what qualities were present in you in those moments. Courage, humour, kindness, fierceness. Then we bridged. Those qualities haven't been cut out of you. They're still here. Your worth is not dependent on having breasts. We used a simple line. My worth is unconditional. My expression is optional. We also used perspective taking, a metacognitive capacity skill, especially 10.2, perspective taking on self. Imagining watching herself walk into a room from the outside and describing her in the third person. She looks brave. She looks tender. She looks like someone who's lived through fire. This helps grow 10.2, perspective taking on self. Being able to see yourself more kindly and accurately rather than only through the lens of shame. Our nervous systems are deeply influenced by the stories we tell and the symbols we carry. Camilla's old internal story was something like, I'm disfigured. I'm less of a woman. My body is a crime scene. We weren't going to plaster affirmations over that. We wanted a coherent, believable truth. So we worked towards something more like, my body has been through a war I didn't choose. When I'm present and warm, people feel safe and drawn to me. My scars are proof of survival, not disqualification. Then we played with archetypes. Radiant survivor, sovereign, quiet flame, magnetic wise woman. She chose one that felt right for her. I'll call it sovereign radiance. We placed that archetype in her body as a symbol. Imagined a soft, steady glow behind her sternum. Not blasting or performative, just a warm ember that said, I'm here, I remain. Before social situations or moments of intimacy, we'd turn that light on for a few seconds. This is symbolic existential capacity Capacity 12 at work, especially 12.2, narrative flexibility and coherence, and 12.3, symbolic thinking and archetypal awareness, using story and archetype to shift the story your nervous system is running. Once a basic level of safety, aliveness, and self-worth were in place, we began exploring how she wanted to show up in the world. We focused on three things. 1. Field. The 3-meter bubble around her. Could she imagine warmth radiating out and back without having to do anything? Could she allow people to feel her presence without apologizing? Here, we're drawing on 5.3, emotional contagion management, projecting energy. 2, voice and micro behaviors, small things that change how attraction feels. Reading a few lines aloud, 10 to 15% slower. I belong in this body. I can enjoy being seen at my pace. Letting her shoulders broaden, collarbones widen, allowing the corners of her eyes and mouth to soften. This tab's 5.1, clear, calming, inspiring communication under pressure. And 8.3, emotional physical vitality in how her body carries her voice. 3, boundaries and choice. This is crucial. Just because she was rebuilding attractive presence didn't mean she owed anyone access. We practiced literal steps, stepping over an imaginary line and saying, yes, I'm open to this. Stepping back and saying, no, that's not right for me right now. On the map, this included 4.4, secure relational boundaries as relational capacity 4, 5.3, emotional contagion management, projecting energy, 6.3, adaptive risk-taking and 6.1, impulse control, 7.2, intrinsic motivation, doing this for her, not to prove something to him, and 10.3, adaptive self-monitoring, noticing in real time what her body was telling her. We designed micro-experiments, wearing a fabric that felt sensuous to her, regardless of anyone else's opinion, holding eye contact 1 or 2 seconds longer with someone she trusted, allowing herself to enjoy a compliment instead of batting it away. After each experiment, we checked. Did your aliveness go up, stay steady, or drop? We kept what increased aliveness without flooding her. We dropped what triggered shutdown. So what actually changed? This isn't a Hollywood montage. It wasn't overnight. But over weeks and months, we noticed shifts in 3 areas. 1, her relationship with the mirror. At the start, she could barely look below her collarbone. Later, she could stand in front of the mirror for a few seconds, place a hand on her chest, breathe into the scars without that immediate urge to turn away. Eventually, she told me, sometimes I still cry, but now it feels like tenderness, not disgust. Her aliveness score in her chest went from 1 out of 10 to 4, sometimes a 5. That's a huge developmental shift in somatic capacity 8 and emotional capacity 1. 2, her relationship with touch and intimacy. She began to tell her partner what felt okay and what didn't. Say, not yet, or slow down without feeling guilty. Explore different kinds of sensual contact that didn't center on her breasts as the only important site of pleasure. Importantly, she realized, I'm not doing this to keep him. I'm doing this because I want a life where I feel alive and wanted. Her signals, flinching, freezing, dissociating, became less frequent and less intense. They didn't vanish completely, but they stopped running the show as her capacities grew. 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 12. 3. Her relationship with identity. She moved through recognizable stages. Victim of betrayal and illness, to survivor, to sovereign in a changed body. She began to inhabit her archetype of sovereign radiance in small, everyday ways. The way she entered a room, the way she chose clothes, the way she held eye contact with people who once intimidated her, and interestingly, people around her responded. Friends described her as more grounded, calmer, somehow more there. Intimacy became less about, does he still fancy me? And more about, do I feel safe and alive with this person in this moment? That's attractive presence. Not perfection, not a performative sex goddess persona, just a woman whose capacities had grown enough that her body, her story, and her sexuality felt like a place she could inhabit with dignity again. Let's bring this back to you. You might not share Camila's exact story. Your path might include menopause, weight changes, chronic illness, pregnancy and childbirth, other surgeries, or simply the impact of time. I want to invite you to notice gently, what are your signals? Maybe it's avoiding mirrors, flinching from touch, shutting down compliments, disappearing into baggy clothes, feeling invisible, or never quite letting yourself enjoy desire. Rather than asking, what's wrong with me? Try a different question. What skills haven't had a chance to grow around the body I live in now? Is it the skill of staying present in your body for a few seconds at a time? That's 8.2 Somatic Attunement, 1.2 Adaptive Emotional Processing. The skill of holding your worth as unconditional, even when your appearance changes. That's 3.4, Healthy Self-Worth. 3.1, Clear, Cohesive, Evolving Sense of Self. The skill of saying yes and no in a way that honours your pace. That's 4.4, Secure Relational Boundaries. 6.1, Impulse Control. The skill of rewriting the story your scars tell. That's 12.2, Narrative Flexibility and Coherence. 12.3, Symbolic Thinking and Archetypal Awareness. Just take a moment. You might even pause this video and see which of those lands most strongly, because that's where your signals are pointing. I'd like to offer you a very short practice, a tiny sample from the full attractive presence process I've created inside PsycheVita.com. If it feels okay and you're in a safe place, you might even close your eyes for this. Step 1. Arrive. Safety and somatic. 1.2, 8.2, 8.3. Let your feet find the ground. Feel the support beneath you. Take 2 slow exhales, just a little longer than usual. Notice one place in your body that feels even slightly less bad than the rest. Step 2, worth. Identity 3.4. Silently repeat, my worth is unconditional. My body has changed, but my right to feel alive has not. You don't have to believe it fully, just let the words float through. Step 3, symbol. Symbolic existential 12.3. Choose one word that represents how you'd like to feel in your body one day. It might be radiant, steady, magnetic, soft, sovereign. Imagine that word as a small, warm light behind your sternum. Not huge, just a candle flame. Step 4, micro behaviour. This is influence and behavioural 5.16.3. Gently lengthen your spine, soften your jaw, allow the tiniest hint of a smile in your eyes or at the corners of your mouth, and silently say, I take up my natural space. That's it. You don't have to do anything more with it today. If nothing else, notice, did your internal state shift by even 1%? If yes, that's proof that your signals can respond to skill, not just to willpower. If you recognise yourself in parts of Camilla's story, maybe not the cancer, but the mirror, the shame, the sense that your body has changed and your desire doesn't know where to live, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not broken. What you're experiencing are signals that specific capacities and competencies haven't yet had a chance to grow around the body you inhabit now. Most mental health diagnoses, and even many executive performance concerns, are just clusters of these signals grouped under a name that's stuck. In my work, I'm less interested in the label and far more interested in which skills are underdeveloped, which capacities are under strain, and how can we grow them step by step. Inside the Grow section of PsycheVita.com, I've created a full attractive presence process that targets these map areas explicitly, especially Somatic Capacity 8, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4. Identity Capacity 3, 3.1, 3.4, Relational Capacity 4, 4.4, Influence Capacity 5, 5.1, 5.3, Behavioural Capacity 6, 6.1, 6.3, Symbolic Existential Capacity 12, 12.2, 12.3. You'll find short teaching videos that explain these capacities and competencies in plain language. A step-by-step guide you can follow at your own pace so you're not trying to remember it all from one sitting. A practice worksheet where you track your safety, aliveness and sense of attractiveness over time. And a PsycheScription, a short guided practice you can return to whenever you're pulled back into old stories about your body. The aim is simple, to help you build the skills your signals are pointing to, so over time they no longer dominate your life in the same way. You can start on the free tier, explore your PsycheVita map, get a sense of where your signals cluster. And if you find that helpful, you can become a paid subscriber to unlock the full Grow library of skills and mastery packs, including attractive presence and many other capacities. If you prefer a book in your hands, you'll also find my book, Transform Your Life, the ultimate guide to self-mastery, linked there. It lays out the full Lifelong Capacities Map. And if you'd like one-to-one support, there's also a link there. All of those links are in the description. I want to leave you with this. Your scars, whether from surgery, illness, age, pregnancy, weight change, or heartbreak, are chapters, not verdicts. They are part of your story, but they are not the end of it. Your body has changed. Your capacity for desire and attractive presence can still grow. The signals you're living with now, the flinches, the numbness, the self-criticism, are not final judgments. They're invitations to grow. The way you inhabit your body, the way you see yourself, the way you allow yourself to be seen. If today is not the day to dive into all of that, that's okay. Save this video. Come back when you're ready. In a future episode, I'll be exploring another common signal after illness and trauma, feeling like a patient long after the treatment has ended, and what it takes to move from patient back to person. And if you choose to, love her. Until then, you are not broken. You're being called to grow. Thank you for being here and for having the courage to even think about feeling sexy again after everything you've been through.